Sometimes you want power, but sometimes you want power that's also portable. Enter the Toshiba 3015 CT, a tiny powerhouse of a laptop from the late 90s in an extremely portable form factor. Let's explore this machine, reload it, and try out some games and see what it's made of. Welcome back to Rick's Ren Retro, where now we're playing with portable power. Again, it's hard not to marvel at the size of this laptop. It is really tiny. Compared to a more average Dell laptop of the era, we see the size at play here. And if that's not enough to make my point, here is a banana for scale. Or a random retro banana, as it were. As far as specs goes, this house has a Pentium processor clocking in at 266 MHz. And yes, that's a Pentium and not Pentium 2, 32 MB of memory, a 4 GB hard drive, a 2 MB video card, and finally actually a Yamaha OPL 3 sound card. Alright, so here we have our Toshiba, or as the label says Toshiba, missing an A. This machine obviously has seen better days. It was probably heavily used as a traveler's machine for an executive some variety. So, got our model number back here and the serial number and everything, probably an old asset tag here. So the first challenge we have, of course, is that there is no optical drive or floppy drive on this thing. And although it has an expansion port for a floppy drive, which I believe is right here, proprietary Toshiba thing, we don't actually have that. So rather than spending the money on it, we're going to try and extract the hard drive and then format the hard drive on another computer, prepare it, put all the Windows 98 installation stuff we need on it, plus the drivers, so I can get USB up and running on this thing and then copy things off via network. We do have, I believe, we have a modem here. Let's see, this pops out like this. Yep, here we go. We got a 56K modem card. It's locked into that PCMI slot. It's got that nice little jump out thing here to connect the, that looks like it wouldn't break at all. And on this side here, I have found myself a, let's see if I can get this card out here. It's a little trickier. Let's see. They had to make some concessions to make it fit on this small chassis, obviously, and it's got this one little plug here that injects the PCMI card. And I found a PCMCIA 10 megabit network card, which I'm very happy, because once I get this thing up and running, and I do have the dongle for it, then I'll be able to copy files over as needed. So that goes right in there. And so that's the floppy proprietary connector. And we do have a port replicator port here as well. See if I can get it open. There we go. Again, proprietary to Toshiba, so I don't have that, nor am I super inclined to spend the money for it right now. But so that said, we're going to try and get the hard drive out of this thing and see if we can get that rolling to get it reloaded and everything, get a fresh build on it. So I tried to look online for a service manual or something will tell me how to deconstruct this, but I haven't had much luck yet, so I'm sure I'll find one right after this video is over, or someone will leave a comment directing me where to find one, so which means that this video will be somewhat exploratory, and I'm sure I'll take a few side steps that aren't going to bring us to where we need to be, but, you know, we're going to give it a try anyway. So the first thing I looked, of course, there's no trapdoor, sadly, for the hard drive itself. I don't see any indicator training for it. I'm assuming this is going to be the memory expansion slot. So again, you got to think of how small this laptop is. It's super thin, especially for the era. So they didn't really have, you know, a easily extractable, you know, some of the larger laptops I've seen have like a bay here you can pull out that has a hard drive in it. So my best guess is that the hard drive is probably slotted right on the keyboard or something similar. And again, there's no tabs or anything to extract it here. So we're simply going to have to take the whole chassis apart and see what we're dealing with. Probably undo all the screws on the back here and see if it comes apart. And I make a fool of myself in the process as I'm breaking this thing, but we're gonna give it a shot, so let's get started. Alright, first things first, we're going to remove the battery, obviously. I don't want that plugged in here. It comes loose pretty easily, and it's actually a surprising amount of weight for this machine itself. If you look at the proportion of weight that's on the battery versus the machine itself, it's quite a lot actually. Next we're going to go ahead and take the PCMCIA cards out just to reduce the stuff we have in here. There we go. Those are extracted. So now I'm going to have to take a guess here and say we got a lot of little screws here. So we're going to get our trusty little toolkit out here. And let's see, what do we need for starters? Looks like we're going to need a small Phillips. Well, it looks like to be the name of the game overall. I'm trying to remove this trapdoor here for the memory and take a look. Now, yeah, really small screws. They want you to break these things. Put those screws aside so we can find them again. Should come right out, except try and pry it open here a little bit. There we go. So that looks like I have no idea. Interesting. I thought this would be the memory, and it might be that the memory sits under here or something, but I'm not entirely sure what this cord is for. So someone can leave a comment and tell me what the heck that's for, or I'll find out later. So. We're going to move on to the majority of the screws in this case here. So if I grab it, nope, that's too big. Really tiny screws, but again, it's a small form factor computer, right? So it certainly feels like there's another. Oh, there's a screw right there that I missed, and that will do that. So don't worry, I'll cut out or edit out the pieces that are embarrassing to me later, or keep them in, who knows, like a B-roll. Everyone likes to see other people fail, right? Here we go. Yep. I'm sure, watching the video later, I realized that that screw was obviously missed, so there we go. So we have extracted then the panel that has the buttons, which I believe we should be able to detach here pretty easily. And it's like our hard drive guy is right there, so that's a good sign then. That's what we're looking for. Very nice. So that should make, we shouldn't have to disassemble anything more, so let's see. Alright, well that should be doable. So I decided to leave this connected, obviously. There's no real reason to detach that, obviously. So, let me peel back this thermal tape here. I mean, you look at it again, how tight everything is in here, because again, the slim form factor compared to the other laptop I showed, the larger Dell, this is really slim, especially for the era. I'm really curious to see what the actual usability or power of it, if they made any concessions to keep it that small, but it is just tiny. So, peel this. This looks like a thermal paddle of some variety, so we can get to the hard drive. This looks like I have to disconnect. I'm not sure where this is going, but I'm assuming one of the ports over here, some kind. So I'm not sure how to get this hard drive out without. There we go. So I guess you just lift it like that and pull gently. So there we go. Hard drive is extracted, and yeah, since it's so tight and so hot, I'm guessing this thermal shield here is supposed to keep it from overheating too much. So, and then the hard drive itself slides out of the protective cover here. So there we go. There is our Toshiba hard drive, 4,327 megabytes. So, all right, we're gonna pop this into another computer and see if we can't wipe it and reload it. I was going to mention as well, for those that are curious, to actually connect this to my modern computer, I'm using one of these standard USB ID and SATA converters, if you will. So it has one side for a full-size hard drive and then one side for a laptop hard drive, like you can see here. And it just basically hooks up like this, and it powers the whole thing. Pretty simple to use and everything. So not all hard drives will work with this, but in my experience so far, it's been pretty convenient to have, especially when you're cloning hard drives and everything. So that's what I'll use to plug into my computer, so that's where we're going to go next. Alright then, so coming back to my normal computer, we're going to try and format this hard drive and make it prepared for Windows 98 installation. So there's a few things we need to do. First off, I'm going to actually plug in the hard drive into my little USB converter, as shown earlier, and get the machine to actually see the hard drive. So let's plug that in. There we go. And you can probably hear the hard drive spinning. It's a pretty loud one, for sure. And we'll see here now if it's actually detected. And we can see this hard drive here is actually our little Toshiba hard drive. 4 gig, FAT32 and everything. So while it has stuff on here, we're actually going to wipe it. So to do that, we want to actually format it, not just with the Windows utility, but actually use a special tool called the HP USB Disk Storage Format Tool, which lets me format it and put the Windows 98 boot stuff on there as well. This software, I'll leave a link in the description as well, but it will actually let me format the drive with, there we go, it's seen Toshiba. We'll do FAT32, and we'll do a quick format, but I also want to create a DOS startup disk. So we're going to go to my downloads folder, and everyone close their eyes because I need to clean that really badly. I need to actually find my stuff that I put on here. Let's see. I have way too much junk in here. There we go. Win98 boot. So we're going to go there, and we're going to start, and it's going to format the hard drive for us with the startup information needed for Windows 98 to boot from it. Warning, it will wipe the drive completely, everything will be lost. The Toshiba hard drive, that is okay. There we go, we got the message saying that you know, the drive must be formatted to be used. So there we go, the drive has been formatted. We'll close out of this here now. Now let's take a look and see. We have an empty drive. So there's a couple of things we need to copy then to this drive. Not, you know, it's bootable and everything, but we need a few more things on here as well. So and it's actually nice that Toshiba was nice enough to provide us with all the drivers for this computer still, believe it or not. So that's pretty nice of them. That they still have all those drivers needed, which can be a pain sometimes to chase all that down. So I've downloaded all the drivers I might need, including a generic USB mass storage device driver. Lets me use USB devices on Windows 98, so that's pretty nice. And then also the network card driver we need for our PCMCIA. The network card. So we're gonna get and copy all that over to our Toshiba hard drive here. So we'll start creating a folder for our drivers. There we go. I'm gonna grab all these guys here. There we go. And next we'll actually need the Windows 98 installation CD, of course. Without that, we're kind of dead in water, right? So we're going to copy this over here as well. And there we go. So, of course, this is an old hard drive. It took a little while, especially going through the USB connection and everything that I have from my converter here. But this hard drive is now fully loaded up with our Windows 98 installation CD that we need, the drivers that we need. And also, if you're wondering why you can't really see the files, they're hidden files, of course, but we do see the command, the common ms-dos.sys files and everything we need to make it actually bootable. So we are going to plop this back into our computer and then see if we can boot it up and get Windows 98 installed. Alright then, we're back at the computer, where we're going to try and do the fiddly task of getting this hard drive back in here as well. So have the thermal shield here as well, so we're going to put that back in here. I believe it was like this. Then we're going to try and lift these flaps here, see if we can get the hard drive plugged back in. We don't want our IR not to work, because that will be a tragedy. We might need it someday. We're transferring files via our GSM modem in our Nokia phone or something. You know, you never know. There we go. Alright, we're going to fold this back here, this guy. I don't think this is going to stick very well again, but that's alright. We'll just put this back here to squish it back into place. We only work with the finest quality of stuff here. It looks like our little PCM. There we go. PCMCIA. Why is it so hard to say that? I think it's just too much of an alphabet soup going on. So, all right, we're going to close this guy up here. And then we just need to reinstall our screws again. So let's do that next. Alright, now I'll just screw back in place. So next thing now, we're actually going to boot the computer up and see if we can get Windows 98 installed on our Toshiba. So while the computer itself is pretty dirty, the screen is pretty bad, so we're going to want to wipe it off here with just a light soapy solution and everything. It's not perfect, but it's quite a lot better than it was before here, so we can actually see it a little bit. We're going to go in and take a look at the C drive here. We can see we have our drivers directory and a Windows 98 folder that we created earlier, so we're going to go into the Windows 98 CD1 and actually run the setup program. There we go. And as we can tell, the installation starts up just fine, no problem. So again, we did not have any CD-ROM drive or floppy drive attached to this machine, so installation kicked off just fine. Of course, since we're installing direct from the C drive, it's fairly quick, so we're going to let that finish here and then hop into Windows 98 after installation is completed. Alright, so we're back. So Windows 98 took quite a while to install on this poor old hard drive, so and for the future, I'll probably look at replacing that with some kind of a adapter or compact flash solution, because I'm not sure if that's picked up right now. I'll try and move the microphone over here, you can hear it. But that hard drive is very, very loud, so it accounts for almost the entire noise profile of this machine. So other than that, I was able to go into the BIOS and actually enable the scaling of the monitor, so it actually fills the whole screen, and it's just really poor quality. So I have to get the video driver installed pretty quickly here, so it's not making me hopeful for the DOS video performance. If this is scaled, it looks just gnarly. So we'll see how that ends up being then later when we do DOS stuff. So we'll take a look here at the computer properties, device manager. It did install most of the default drivers and everything, but since we came prepared, we obviously have some additional drivers on the C drive here. Again, remember, we did not have any CD-ROM drive or floppy disk to do anything here, but we do have the drivers folder, which contains most of the drivers we need. So one of the first things I'd like to install is the USB mass storage driver, which actually lets you use USB devices, and I specifically mean USB storage devices, so USB sticks, things like that. Very handy for transferring files. Now, we will actually get this machine on the network eventually. I'm not sure if you heard that, but the sound card actually is working, so we have audio right away without doing anything, so that's pretty cool. Now I feel like I have to mention here that this machine, getting drivers installed on this proved to be troublesome, especially the network card drivers. I had to do a lot of finagling back and forth, so I chose not to show that in the video now because it would get really long drawn. There was a lot of back and forth with the driver to get the TCP/IP stack to function properly, to get all the drivers to be detected, the network card to work, and it to pull an IP address. It took a long time, alright? So I'm just going to cut through all this here, but just to let you know that this guy gave me a little bit of trouble. Alright then, back to our computer finally. After a lot of back and forth with the drivers, we're now ready to get going here. So I'm going to plug in a network cable into my little dongle here, and we have a link light and a transmit light, so that's exactly what we need. So now, we just need to make sure that we actually pull an IP address. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the MS-DOS prompt, or command prompt as it were. Then we're going to type in ipconfig to see if we have anything. And sure enough, we have an IP address. That's exactly what we need. So now, all we have to do is open a file explorer. And that's right. Sometimes I get a little confused on which OS I'm running. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and browse to that directory that sits on my little NAS on my retro network here and see if we can get to it. Perfect. Yep, we can see all the shared needed here. And in here we have a folder with games. So let's check out some games. We're going to start off in DOS, so here we have Heroes of Might and Magic 2, a turn-based strategy game set in a fantasy world. And boy did I burn a lot of hours in this one back in the day. As we can see, this computer is running great, including sound on that OPL3 Yamaha chip. And even though the screen isn't perfect, it looks even better in person with quite vivid colors. It's actually very impressive considering the era of laptop screen technology. Next, let's switch over to a much more recent strategy entry, Planet X3 by Dave Maria, aka the 8-Bit Guy. He programmed the game with quite a broad range of support, but here again it's running great. I'd like to point out that the full screen scaling I enabled in the BIOS is performing fantastic here in DOS. Although it's not pixel perfect, it does look quite natural when stretched to fill the screen. If you're testing DOS games, you just gotta have some sort of Doom. My weapon of choice is yet again Doom 2. The sound chip on board gives a truly retro feel, and of course the game in general runs just great. I'd like to point out how little shadowing and ghosting there is on the screen considering how fast-paced the movement is here, and it really is very playable. Well, except for the really cramped keyboard, that is. And just to push this machine a bit more, let's switch over to the natural follow-up, Quake. Remember, we're running in software mode here, which limits our options a bit, but the game does run great at low resolution. Keep in mind I'm actually playing with a little mouse nub here on the keyboard because I'm a glutton for punishment. Considering that limitation, I'd say I did fairly well actually. We can, however, see the limit is reached when we try and kick up the resolution higher. The game is still basically playable, but it is much worse off. I'd say that's the actual limit for what this machine can do. Lastly, here is Return Fire. A great little Windows game that's just silly fun to play, where you use different military vehicles to capture the enemy flag. We can definitely notice some stuttering going on here, but I can also hear the hard drive clicking right in sync with that stutter, so I'm pretty sure that's our limitation here. The hard drive may be on the way out, or it's simply just that slow. Replacing it with a compact flash solution is probably the next step to improve that situation. Still, the game is really fun though, and can be played with 2 players on the same keyboard, although that sounds pretty unpleasant considering how small this keyboard is. So let's summarize what we covered on this Toshiba Portage 3015 CT. We managed to get our OS loaded on it after extracting the hard drive, and getting drivers on it proved to be a bit of a challenge, but we got there in the end. Once it's all said and done, it's actually quite a capable machine for early Windows gaming, but above all, a great performer in DOS. That's owed primarily to the internal components that support excellent compatibility. So the thing above all against it is the thing that makes it so neat, the form factor. While it's super portable, besides the battery being basically shot, that also limits what you can do with it. If I had the port replicator, which I might still get, being able to plug into some external peripherals would go a very long way. I'll also note that the machine did get quite warm to the touch when doing even some modest gaming on it, so there may be a limiting factor there as well. All in all though, it's a super neat machine, so thanks for sticking around and exploring it with me. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.